So I've got a couple of questions for you about, like, I'll... What's your name?
Hey guys, my name's Jimmy. I'm the owner of KNGLOO.
How did your love of cars begin? How early on?
To be honest, it's sort of... I had a group of mates back in high school. We used to sort of catch up at school, outside of school. We'd always end up at like Hungry Jack's and go for a cheeky cheeseburger and frozen Coke. So those were some pretty fond memories. But yeah, a few of the boys had different cars. I had a Daihatsu Charade at the start, and it sort of, yeah, it wasn't the bee's knees, but it was a gift from my nan, which honestly was an amazing gift. I done half my L's on that, done heaps of hours. It was honestly a pocket rocket. I used to call it a Ferrari, because yeah, it's just honestly quite... It was like, again, it was a pocket rocket, but it was also just fun. It like, when you ran around corners, it would just like sway like a boat. So honestly, it was pretty entertaining to have that. But yeah, the boys pretty much had some cars. Like, one of the boys got a Sylvia, one had two Preludes, one had a Triple S Pulsar. Like, there was a bit of everything. Then one of the boys had a VS, and then it like went from one mate to another, and it started the excitement for cars. And then from there, I sort of like jumped into, when I got my green peas, I got VY S pack, and yeah, that was my first manual. Green peas. Went and picked it up with my mum, and she drove it home because I wasn't confident enough to drive home yet. So that was quite entertaining. And then from then on, it just sort of skyrocketed and pretty much picked up. And I've just sort of chopped and changed a few cars, spent some dumb money here, dumb money there, but it's entertaining because it's more one of those things where it's yours and it represents what you're chasing.
So we've learnt a little bit about you. Now we'll ask you some stuff about the actual channel itself. What's something that, you know, viewers that are watching you on YouTube don't really see or realise about running a car channel, so to speak?
So I'm only early days at the moment, but I understand that a lot goes into running a channel, especially like this, but also potential growth. It is very hard to keep fresh, new, and being excited about the same stuff all the time. So in my eyes, there's a lot of upkeep costs, because it's not like some things where you can just buy it and you've got all your gear and then you sort of do stuff. This, you have experience to be able to do this stuff, or you've got to have some good mates that can help you learn on the go. Like, over the years, I've learned how to pretty much pull this part apart almost by the back of my hand. When it comes to the motor, I try to leave it apart, but there's always an expense. Nothing's cheap, nothing's free. Yes, you can go on Marketplace and find a few different cheaper parts and stuff like that, but sometimes cutting costs on new or quality parts becomes more of a hassle, because down the line you've cheaped out.
In relation to your loo and the work you've done on the car, has there been anyone, you know, from the Sydney area that's kind of inspired you, or, you know, had a heavy influence on how, like, what you do to your car and the work you've done to the car, or is it just all on your own?
Ideally, at the end of the day, it's still a VE HSV. Like, inspired, there wouldn't really be anyone specific, because you try and grab ideas off everyone and different variants. Like, I've tried to build my own car slightly different to everyone. That's why I done the SS with my old car. I done a little bit different. It was called the SS Senator Maloo, because it had a Senator front bar on it, Series 2. Now, not many people had ever done that. I think there was one other person that had done it with that bar, because it was impossible to get. It took me forever to get the parts to finish that. When it comes to Inspired, I'm just doing it the way I want to do it. It's the same with like the interior. I've just done red, I've tried it. If you don't try things, you don't know. So it's one of those things where, like, even with my brakes at the front there, it's something that no one really has done or done regularly that you see of. Because everyone always looks at my brakes, for example, and goes, I haven't seen those before, what are they? But pretty much that's because no one's ever really done that avenue. So to be fair, I'm just trying to do my own thing and sort of go from there.
Alrighty, what's your all-time dream car that's been like achievable to purchase?
So before I got this, I had the SS that I mentioned slightly earlier. So when I was getting ready to sell that, because that car become like a constant breakdown, and every second or third week I'd have to change a CV, a diff, a clutch, just always had issues with it. That's also driver error sometimes, but sometimes you just have a lemon. And from the get-go, that car was a lemon. I sold that, and I really wanted to get a LSA clubby, because one of the boys, he had one, and it was an amazing car. They were really nice, really awesome, had a lot of power, but it had the drive line, which is what I was chasing. And that was the ideal goal. But this popped up because I had issues with the finances, all that, as most people do. And then that's where, over time, I've always wanted a VF clubby still, or a VF GTS, because those were the two that I was trying to hop into. But besides the interior, I've done everything I can to get this to where I sort of wanted it. So I'm pretty happy with it now. It's one of those things where I've made it to what I want, and I'm very happy. It's got the power, it's got the looks, it's pretty much everything I was after.
So you've pretty much created your own dream car.
Pretty much, yes.
NV Customs. Who, what, when, where, why? Give us a rundown of NV, a little bit of the history.
So this one was a little creation of me and my brother. So we were doing everything we can to run a car club called Evolution, and we were always hanging out with people. We're just like trying to tee up, little meet spots, and then all of a sudden we were like, you know what? I want to invest into myself, but also give it a shot, because that way, if people are after stickers, I'm not relying on someone elsewhere to go, yeah, I can get them out to you, but then not deliver on the turnaround time. So that way, at least by running meets, I could get my stickers. So I had a chat with Ben one day, and I said, hey, I'm gonna organise buying a vinyl plotter. And from there, we were like, yes, sweet as, we'll just jump into it, have a crack. And so I bought a plotter, bought a little heat press, because that way I could sort of also do some jumpers. Another thing that sort of helped start it was we ended up ordering about 70 jumpers through someone else down in Victoria, and she'd done a great job with the jumpers. But also I wanted to be able to create them myself, because they were very expensive as well. I think they were about the $70 mark as well, whereas we were charging $75 shipped for a jumper. So from there, it sort of had a little bit of, okay, let's give this a shot. And we slowly, week by week, busted our ass between, I was working 2 jobs, Ben was working as much as he could, and we sort of kept going. There was a lot of days that I was on no sleep, pretty much between, like, Friday night I'd be finishing at 2:33 in the morning, I'm up at 7 to wrap a roof, for example. Eventually it sort of got a bit bigger, we went from spot to spot, and I really did enjoy doing it. But in the end, sometimes business is very hard. I've always appreciated the fact that some people are meant for it, some people are not. I have my moments where it is great, but if you start to take on jobs that you sort of aren't appreciating or enjoying just to cover just to make ends meet, it gets very hard, and then you start to not enjoy it as much. because personally I love rapping. I enjoyed every moment. I got to meet new people pretty much all the time, and that to me was awesome. But it is a very hard skill, and depending on where you are, you know, you have to do things that you don't want to do sometimes. And pretty much between me and my brother, it was probably some of the greatest years, putting the effort in and just sort of hanging out, but doing something while we're hanging out. We had a lot of the mates, hanging out and help progress us through the years, and they were always there to support, helping, giving creativity, ideas. It was heaps of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I think that's why I'm trying to create a channel where I can just sort of engage a bit more, but also not have the stress of a day-to-day business, because you have to act very differently. You can't have mates but also be a business, because you can't mix them. If something goes wrong, you pretty much have to fix every situation, regardless if you're right or wrong. And I don't like that feeling, and I don't think anyone would like that feeling. That's why people that run businesses have issues with having a personal life, because they can't separate it. I don't want to feel like the bad guy. I don't want to feel like the good guy. I just want to be able to enjoy my day-to-day life. And that's why I'll always appreciate when people have successful businesses. I'll always be supportive, and I want the best for people. So to pretty much sum it up, we don't really run it these days. We did sort of let it die off. We loved every minute, but it just got to the point where it wasn't viable, and I don't want to lose my relationship with my brother because things don't work. And that's the biggest thing to me. Like, I'm very close with my small, closed family. In our household, it's us against the world. I want us to all succeed, but also make sure that we all progress and push our own boundaries. So, yes, we don't do it anymore, but I loved every minute, and I do want to take it towards being a hobby further down the track, and that's where throughout the channel I can rewrap my car whenever I want now, which is pretty fucking sick.
Alrighty. Give us a little bit of a history on evolution. What was it? Who were you? How did it start?
Okay, so it is slightly a little hazy of like that far back, because we did start that a couple of years ago. We don't actively run it as a car club anymore. We let it die off, because this area started to become a bit more of a bit of a cop zone, where they just start running inspection bays, and I just didn't want anything to do with people getting in trouble or pulled over. Yes, we modify our cars. Yes, you shouldn't technically, but it's one of those things where it's a culture. Everyone loves modifying the car, because some people have their thing that represents them. For example, some people, they do like drama, acting, stuff like that, and that's how they can release their sort of side of things. But then there's the car scene where, some people are really into the burnout, some people in the drags, some people just enjoy having a stance car that's literally 5mm off the ground. But I just don't want to be the reason that sort of organisers meet, and then out of nowhere cops rock up and start pulling everyone's cars out, But what sort of started is we used to run a other car club back in the day, and that one sort of just fizzled out. Then pretty much we started Evolution. There's a few of us already. We sort of already all used to hang out anyway, and in the end, I sort of said, you know what, let's just try and like take it up a step between me and the boys, because I tried to stand out, because some of the boys were just happy to like be there to attend rather than organising it. But I definitely had a few people to correlate and confirm, different plans with. Like we could already pull anywhere from 10 to 20 people regardless, but then you know what, let's try and pull in some big numbers, so that way people can start to get to know each other on more of a face-to-face basis, because everyone on Instagram these days, we all message each other, we all like see each other's cars, we're all excited to see theirs or that. People do different modifications to their car. For example, airbags in a car is, in my opinion, fairly straightforward to do. But so many people don't have the confidence to pull their car apart and install them, or know how to even wire them up. They are, like I said, to me personally, they're quite straightforward, but I have also done quite a few. But if someone asks me a question and goes, oh, how do you install it? At least if I've got some time, I can answer that and get back to them. But if you've got no one to ask these questions, then you sort of can't do them yourself. So that's where Evolution was sort of like took off a little bit, because we had people all over pretty much Sydney catching up for a weekend, and we would pull anywhere from 50 to 100 cars on most of those meets. We done like a Bathurst meet, we got a couple down to Wollongong, we done like not necessarily meet per se, but we used to go to the all the other group up in Palm Beach. Another thing we used to do is some of us used to all link up and we go to a tune meet before sort of it skyrocketed, because tuned was like our greatest spot to go. It was just chillax, no one cared, it was not too official, it was like $10 entry. We all used to hang out, there'd be 15 of us rocking up with like some Evolution banners or some stickers, and it just sort of, it was fun. You'd grab everyone's attention with a group of Commodores, because that's pretty much what we were. It wasn't a Commodore based, it wasn't based in any sort of shape as well. It didn't matter if you had a V6, a V8, didn't really matter. But it was just, you were hanging out with mates, but also having a great time. So we had some really good fun, which that's where it sort of like pushed onto the NV stuff, and sort of the business went from there.
Alrighty, so we've learnt about where your kind of eye for cars have started. We learned about your first step with Evolution and your mates getting together, doing a little club, and then you told us about the project you did with your brother, NV, how that evolved from Evolution. So leading on from that, what's made you start YouTube? What made you want to take YouTube as your next step?
So I did want to try and do YouTube throughout the process of NV, but it is very hard sometimes to focus on two different journeys at the same time. I guess when it comes to the YouTube, I always wanted to get into it. I think it's almost like recording your life, and then depending on what you do with your videos, it's like a journey. You watch where you started, and you potentially continue to grow to where you want to sort of aim for. Like if you can already see 3 steps ahead, you're always going to be putting the effort in to make it happen. I love the idea of being able to watch people grow, because it's a part of life. Like, I want people to succeed in life and also have a smile on their face while they do it. I've watched over the years of my working career, I've watched so many people go from like starting their TAFE or starting their uni and then pretty much progressing. I genuinely believe that if you put the effort into something, you will make it. And after watching so many people grow and succeed or get through things that they never thought they'd get through, myself included, like I've had experiences in my life where I've never thought I'd see the end of. But here I am now, and that's why it's like, you know what? I've always wanted to try and get a little bit behind the camera and just sort of watch me grow as a person. So I think it's a great experience to be able to try and level up myself by jumping behind the camera, doing videos, having fun with my mates, but also just enjoy the moment with potential chance of down the line, I can make this somewhat of a career, but also have people wanting to hear my opinions. So I just think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, let's go for it.
So I've got a couple of questions for you about I've got a couple of questions about even though it's been a short time, it's been a month and a half, 2 months or something of you creating videos on YouTube now consistently with the cars. In that small amount of time, What's been your biggest learning curve since you started the channel? Or, you know, have you changed like the way you thought about content creation? Like what's the biggest thing you've learned since starting?
I think it's the constant having to learn, adapt, and adjust what you're chasing. Like, to me, I love critiquing what I do, but I'm also willing to take in information. Everyone has those, you know, conversations where people recommend this, people recommend that. I will always somewhat indirectly still listen. And just because I say no doesn't mean no. It means maybe I'm not in the mood to listen. Maybe I'm busy. I can't multitask. I'm a guy. Sometimes I might be doing something and you've said something that might be a great example of something to change or adjust. But I'll go home and I'll think about different ways I could have gone about it. But it's more the fact it's like everyone says no, but I'm willing to bend a knee and say, okay, you know what? That was right. But also to the fact that you'll never stop learning. It's consistent, like you're consistently learning and improving. So it's more one of those things where, like, for example, editing, it takes a lot of work, but for your first video, you're not going to know what to do. You're just going to sort of slap together, do a couple cuts and transitions, and then you're going to call it that. But then all of a sudden, over the next week or whatever, between video 1 and video 2, you go, oh, sweet. You know, my mate said, chuck in a intro, maybe an outro. Try and learn how to add little different key features to the video. Try and get different angles. Try and maybe use different soundtrack. Your audio might have been terrible. Like, there's just always an improvement. And I think that's what I enjoy the most about this. It's a never-ending journey that if you water the plant, things will happen and grow.
All right, so we've spoken about growth and, you know, touch wood, in a year's time, I'm going to be able to ask you this next question again. But where do you see the channel in a year?
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you. It'll always be a work in progress, but as I sort of like move along, it's getting more adjusted to being behind the camera, but also having fun. So it's down to the content I can create. I have a lot of different goals that I want to hit during there, but it's also down to funds as well. Like that's the hard thing with any sort of project. You've got to be able to have some sort of realistic prices to things, but then also got to take some risks, because that's the hardest thing. Sometimes you've got to invest money into creating the risk, but you've got to go for it. A year from now, depending on all my projects and stuff like that, I guess I would love to be able to just sort of, it's hard because I don't actually know how far I really will make it. All I know is that I've just got to put the effort in. It's not something that because it's such a hard niche to get into, it is very hard to sort of see that far into the future. I do look forward to the journey and the people I meet throughout, but it's one of those things, so I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited. So hopefully for a year from now, I will at least have some sort of ad revenue of some sort, to the point where I can at least reinvest those sort of little pocket change cents into my videos and creating content.
Is there a message you want to leave to the audience today, mate?
Hey guys, so to pretty much wrap the video up, I just want to say a big thank you to Nick for jumping behind the camera and helping with this, because pretty much he's my brains when I go to work and we just sort of can discuss a few things. So I just want to say a big thank you to you, and it's good having support from all around that sort of helps you do this sort of stuff. If you guys could do me a massive favor and click that subscribe button and like button, that honestly means a lot to me, and it helps me sort of understand that I'm doing something right. But if you could also jump into the comments, and if you have any other questions, so like that you want to ask me, or any potential content ideas, please be sure to drop them below, because again, it's all about engagement. I'm trying to help you guys understand me, but also give you guys what you're after. So I really appreciate that. And then if you guys have any other questions, make sure to drop them below, because that way, if we do this potentially in a year's time, we also then have some fresh questions or some different perspectives from back then to now, then just sort of go from there. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you again to everyone, and have a great day. Appreciate you guys.
If you like fishing, follow me, fuck yeah.